Nationalism, defined by Merriam-Webster Dictionary, is a feeling that people have of being loyal and proud of their country, often with the belief that it is better and more important than other countries, or a desire by a large group of people, such as people who share the same culture, history, language, etc., to form a separate and independent nation of their own. The prominence of the word has come forward today with the rise of, quote, nationalist populism, with figures such as Donald Trump, Nigel Farage, and Marine Le Pen successfully rising to positions of power. The media narrative, of course, tries to connote the term as a dirty word and tie it to regimes such as Nazi Germany, Fascist Italy, and Imperial Japan. In fact, during the same time period of the Second World War, Great Britain, France, the USSR, and especially the United States all practiced nationalism. Nationalism is the reason you enjoy characters such as Captain America and Superman, all nationalist characters originating from World War II and still enjoyed by many today. This practice is actually critical for the survival of a country, its population, and social interactions in day-to-day life. But let's put this practice in explaining nationalism in a much smaller, simpler scale, using Disney, or more specifically, Disney World's Epcot World Showcase. So what's so special about Epcot? Well, it's probably the only place in the world where you can have a Norwegian pretzel, get drunk on German beer, eat sushi the wrong way, and take a picture in front of the Independence Hall and Eiffel Tower, all in the span of 30 minutes. The World Showcase Pavilion at Epcot features 12 different countries with their own spot, own culture, own theme, and even employ the people from those countries. Countries including Mexico, Norway, China, Germany, Italy, France, Japan, Morocco, Canada, the UK, the US, and well, I guess this is supposed to be generic Africa. So much for diversity, eh, Disney? This experience of having different nations and nationalities in their own spots is vital to the Epcot experience for park visitors. But let's say Disney, acting as a UN of sorts, decided to ignore this rule and remove the sense of nationalism and began to shuffle things around for a more inclusive area. Let's say Africa, the Outpost decided, hey, we need to sell more crafts, and we run out of space. Canada says, sure, please, come to us. So some people from the Outpost move over to Canada. Great job, Canada, says Disney, promptly giving them a participation sticker. The rest of you countries need to follow their example and take in these different cultures. Mexico feels this is a great time to make another restaurant and feels that America would make the perfect spot. America says no, we have our own burger joint. But hey, it's Disney, you gotta let them in. Soon all these countries start to become even more mixed. Mixed to the point where you can't tell whose history is what, who's from where. French might as well be Morocco, Germany looks more like China, and the whole experience of different countries and identities would cease to make the park fun or exciting to visit. To boot into this pot of chaos, countries and ethnicity will actually gain more disdain for each other, having what the other doesn't have, which will in turn take away whatever made Epcot a joy to visit in the first place. In other words, what made each pavilion special and great to visit in their own way will be scrubbed away. Nationalism and appreciation for these cultures is what made these little nations unique, albeit even a tad bit stereotypical, but nonetheless unique and special. Now, coming from this small set example, you're probably thinking, yeah, probably mixing and erasing different heritage of countries in Disney's Epcot would be a terrible idea. But is it the same for nations of the world? Absolutely. And the effects are far more devastating. The antithesis of nationalism is a term known as globalism. You may have heard about it.
We will no longer surrender this country or its people to the false song of globalism.
At first, you may think globalism is some sort of term connected with that cute poster of everyone holding hands around the world that your first grade teacher had. But in fact, it's something far more nefarious. In globalism, a nation's culture, pride, security, and heritage are no longer sacred, and instead fights for a global superstate where the elites have power, borders are open to floods of people from everywhere, and everyone becomes a pawn in a mono-mixed race state of financial disparity. Because of governments following the global sets of belief, countries like Sweden, at one time the safest country in the world, is posed to become a third world country by 2030. Germans now feel unsafe in their own country due to the increased amount of fighting age economic poor starving refugees. In Britain, the most popular name for a newborn child isn't something British you expect like Jack or Thomas, but Mohammed. This in turn is rising tensions between the native European populations against the politicians and migrants, and it isn't just Europe. The rest of the world is beginning to understand the reality between nationalism and globalism. What if tomorrow India became Pakistan, or Pakistan became India? What if Japan culture ceases to exist after generations of taking in multitudes of non-Japanese migrants in a situation? What if Mexico became an extension of a mixed Central and South American culture because it did not protect its ethnicity or nation? All of these countries actually followed their own nationalist identities and priorities. India and Pakistan are fervently patriotic of their own countries, yet respect each other as neighbors to an extent. Japan is one of the most homogenous countries on earth, one of the safest and probably one of the most defiant of the modern nations, transforming its demographics into something it's not. For example, while other nations accept hundreds upon thousands of refugees, Japan only took 27, deporting 2 after they committed rape. While we're on the subject of demographics, look at Mexico's constitution, which denies entry to those who would upset the equilibrium of national demographics. But that's racist, someone might say. No, it's not racism. That's Mexico. That's their own nationalism. Mexico, under its constitution, doesn't allow a fundamental transformation of the country, banning non-natives from holding sensitive jobs, joining the military, or participating in their politics in any way. The president of Mexico even has the right to deport foreigners at will. In 2014, Mexico deported 107,199 illegal Central Americans from its nation, compared to the 104,688 in the United States. Surely if you're on the left, you've been shouting racism for the last couple of sentences, if not the whole video. But again, this isn't racism, this is nationalism. Mexico is absolutely entitled, and it is its duty to protect nation, culture, history, and ethnic demographics. Because then what is a nation without the pride of its people? The belief of globalism in Mexico would take away all that makes Mexico uniquely Mexico. Nationalism is not the belief that one nation thinks it is superior to the rest. A nation can still be itself and peacefully get along, trade with others, participate in sports, religion, and science so that everyone gains, not just itself. Think of it this way. A nation is a family. You care for your house, your job, and your children at school, and love them because they're your children. It doesn't mean you don't respect the other children, even if that one parent at the PTA meetings could get quite annoying. Without nationalism, the identity of your family, your nation, your culture, and your people will not stand in the reality that multiculturalism brings, when everybody is just a mixed palette with no sense of identity to the country they're living in. What you really bring is more segregation, more hatred, tribal warfare, and a loss of identity. Each of our countries have endured generations to become what they are today, each beautiful and magnificent in their own way. Nationalism is not that you hate other countries because they aren't you. It's that you respect them for what they are as their own sovereign nation, as you have respect for yours. Nationalism isn't the urge to hate another group of people, but to love your own, like your family, and make it the best it can be. It's normal to feel pride, to feel that your country comes first, belonging, and love toward your own people and country, and not wanting that being displaced. This binds us together as people, as nations, and as humanity to have our own place to call home and be able to work with one another to make mankind as a whole reach further and beyond. So let's redefine nationalism. Not what the media narrative or disconnected figureheads want you to think it is, but what we as a people are redefining it for this century. Nationalism. A love for your nation and what makes it unique. History, culture, people, as well as a sense of duty to protect, preserve, and make it better every day.
The energy, the faith, the devotion. Mr. President, what should Congress do about this crisis? Mr. President, excuse me. This is a crisis.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction.
Sir, why are you doing all this?
We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
Oh, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.